No, guess I'm too bright.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, good morning, everybody. I see we've got 6-9 here. So I'll go ahead and bring this meeting to order. Well, we even have some in the club room. I like that. This meeting is from the Special Projects Committee, and it dealing with the Fall Fest coming up this fall and initial preparations. We found Linda Laperouse's book on previous Fall Fest dating back to 2014. So, you know, it's going to be, for me anyhow, somewhat of a Bible to utilize as we go forward. One of the first things in her book are vendors and also sponsors. I guess before we get too far into it, we have limited space here in the Valley. On all the previous Fall Fests, we had access to the area which is now the croquet courts, and now being that it's with the club, we just got to determine how much space we have, and then decide how many vendors we can accommodate. I've been recently contacted in regard to the car show. Now, on a previous, when we met previously, we started getting ideas of what we wanted to have, what we didn't want to have. I know there was, we had discussed the car show, which has always been a big draw, but in reality, the areas that we have for a car show and the vendors are primarily at the CBC Old Lodge. Now we have room back by the City Pavilion in that area by the pickleball courts. So I guess at some point we're going to have to see how much space we need per vendor and how much space we need if we decide to go forward with the car show, and for food trucks, etc., and then move forward to contact these people and procure them. In the book here, we have all kinds of forms to sign up vendors, to sign up sponsors, and we have a children's events. So I guess we've got to find out how much space we have and then go forward with what we can realistically accommodate. I put together an outline. We've contacted and gotten business cards from about 28 vendors, and primarily from the Toccoa show and from the show in Clayton. And at some point we'll reach out to them and see if they're interested. But are there any questions? I guess maybe at this meeting, kind of determine what space we have available and what we want to pursue, whether as far as food vendors, how many, arts and craft vendors, maybe beer and wine vendors, and children's events. Anybody have any ideas or thoughts on where we can go, or what, you know, what we've done in the past that everyone liked? Any questions, any comments?
Bruce, I know the committee has expanded since our previous meetings, and obviously we need to get their input, but we had pretty much decided, I thought previously, that we were not going to do the car show because it was going to really inhibit our space available for vendors and or parking. I mean, I'm certainly open to reconsidering that, but I think that is a valid concern.
Yeah, in just the last day or so, a gentleman, I can't think of his name, sent me an email asking about, are we going to have a car show? That's why I'm kind of throwing it out and seeing what everybody's thoughts are based on the limited space we have. Roy, what are your thoughts as far as club space? Is the club, can the club relinquish anything in that area? Or should we just kind of assume it's going to have to be kind of from the lodge back to the city pavilion? Any thoughts?
Oh, we could probably look at it as far as the pavilion and some of the parking out there, somewhat similar to the way we did the Sid Weber barbecue. You know, we got to keep people off the croquet lawn.
Mm-hmm.
Is this, I've never been to one of the Fall Fest, so is this a 1 or 2 day event or?
It's a one-day event, October 15th. It's a Saturday.
Uh-huh. I think we could probably work something out for that one weekend.
Right. In the past, Roy, I'm sorry.
Bruce, this is Ed. I think the success we had with the setting up the booths around the circle at the pavilion probably works better than anything else. And that allows us then to run a shuttle back and forth between the CBC and maybe do the kids stuff down at the pavilion.
I agree, Ed, and I think in the past, and from comments from some of the vendors, they like being able to set up on a hard surface like asphalt. And I know there were a lot of vendors set around that circle in the past. So what I'd like to do in the next couple of weeks is just kind of measure up the areas that we have available to us and then determine how many vendors and if we can accommodate a car show. But the only place we've had the car show is in the parking lot at CBC, and it takes, you know, it took up a lot of room. But I guess, first of all, I want to determine how much space we have and then see, you know, what children's events we can have, vendors, and food trucks.
I think you're going to find that the car people, I think, complained the last time. They don't want to have public parking right next to their
Vehicles.
show.
Yeah.
So.
And I think if we do have that, it's going to be car show and then vendors. Parking is going to be elsewhere, which is going to be another issue. Parking in the past has been on at CBC, at the chapel, down by the pavilion. But parking is another issue that's going to limit to a certain degree how much we can do and how many vendors we can have.
How many cars do you typically have in the car show?
Boy, I bet we had 20, every bit of 20.
Why can't we do that? Why can't we do the car show on the corner right there and all those spots right there, which is about 20 spots? Right as you come around, when you come down from the chapel and the old ski lodge, that corner right there, there's like 20 spots right there. We put the car show right there.
I think it's more than 20.
Yeah.
More than 20
Yeah,
cars.
I really don't remember how many cars, but
Yeah, if you pull out of the parking lot and you take a right as you start going around the corner, it's those spots right there.
It's bigger than that.
Yeah,
They fill it back to parking lot.
Yeah.
When they're here.
sure.
Okay, well, again, we've got to see what space, what square footage we have to accommodate all the events, and then, you know, gather together again and see. Linda had a whole sheet of sponsors that we had on the last one, or the last one she did, which was 217, which you know, we can use that and add to it. Some of the sponsors were 100. There were some even in greater than that of businesses in our community. So, you know, we can kind of divvy that up, that and the vendors, once we determine how many we can accommodate.
Yeah, one of the things about doing it at the club circle there is that we have one, limited space, and then two, there could be no children's activities there. There's simply no space for that kind of activities, I don't believe.
That's correct.
Yeah, and the only places I can think for children's events are maybe over in the park. Is there any room back by the croquet courts to the right of the croquet courts as you're coming in, or is that something you want children to stay away from?
No, you wouldn't have space to do the children's stuff.
By the park, you mean over there by the athletic compound over there, the pool and all that?
By the pickleball court?
I was thinking.
Yeah, that would be.
What about the park area that's to the left of the pool and the gym?
Well,
Right up there.
the timeshare.
That's timeshare. I mean, that's possible, but that's kind of a contentious. What's that?
That's a busy week for them too.
Yeah. I mean, there's.
Let's talk about the kids' activities. One of the problems we've had in the past is we would get those bouncing tents, and nobody wanted, the person who provided it, they didn't want any liability. We didn't want any liability, and we couldn't get anybody to volunteer to man it because they didn't want liability. So if we do some activities for the kids, that's one thing that we probably need to make a decision on whether we want to do a bouncy house or not.
Yeah, some of the kids events, one is the bouncy. There was one at the Toccoa Fest that was pretty slick, but it was, I think it's too large for our area. It was like a merry-go-round, and the kids were on little swings, and they bounced up and down. It was pretty large one at Toccoa. Do you remember, Ken, that one?
Yeah,
I saw one at in Destin late last year that was the same thing, but considerably smaller. And the guy that was attending it, he said, this little event stays packed with the kids. Petting zoo is something that we've discussed. Face painting, a pumpkin race, kind of the same as a duck race. Pumpkin painting contest, the hay rides, dog costume contest, scavenger hunt, cornhole contest. So those are some of the things that really won't take up a whole lot of space, and it'll be something fun for the children.
Hey, Bruce,
Yes.
at the Clayton Craft Show last year, there's a company called Blue Ridge Events or something like that, but it's out of Mountain City. They have a blue bus that they pull up, and they have activities in and shortly around it. That worked out real well. That
What's it called? Blue Ridge what?
Events, I think. I've got a card on it.
Okay.
And then the other thing they had that day, it was the Raven County High School they provided a petting area,
Mhm.
which I think if we do down by the croquet court up closer to the clubhouse, I think we could easily accommodate that. They had rabbits, they had sheep, you know, and kids was all over that.
So Rabun County, what now?
High school, it's FFA.
I tried.
I'm sorry.
No, we had a little technical problem here that we took care of.
Okay,
I
good.
think those are
But-
great ideas. I think those are great ideas, Jim, and I'm glad to see you and I hope you're feeling well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are you doing acrobatics yet?
Somewhat. Dottie's making me do it.
Yeah,
And you know that's true.
I got him a jump rope, but he won't use it.
I love the idea of the bus and the petting zoo. I think that's fabulous.
And I'm pretty sure the bus has their own liability, obviously, because it is their bus and the area around.
And Linda has all kinds of forms that we can use to solicit vendors, you know, the sign and for the sponsors. So once we determine what events we're going to have, we've got the forms that we can use, and any certificates of insurance we'll need from the city based on what vendors we have, we can procure. And, you know, if we have the food events we get, we'll probably have to, food or alcohol, beer or wine, we'll have to get with the city and see what we have to do to make that okay. Any kind of Linda's got a Georgia Department of Public Health temporary food service establishment application, so we'll have to look and see what the city has to do to if we're going to go that route.
Bruce, another question. If we have it by the pavilion, that's the club's property, correct?
Yeah, the club pavilion or by the
Yeah.
croquet, yes.
Okay, right. But would that give us the ability to serve alcohol from the club? Have the outside there?
That is a club question.
But don't you have a permit where you can drink on our property?
Yeah.
I mean, we already have one.
Yeah, but we're talking about outside vendors coming in.
Or both, you know?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's not going to just be the club. It's going to be the club plus we're talking about other vendors, some of the breweries and things.
Yeah, a couple of the breweries, one of them's Curry that is in Clayton.
Well, I'm not sure what they're talking about. But the city can license to come forward with the event.
But, you know, I know Curry does events like this. I've spoken with them. The only other one would be the Lazy Hiker setting up a booth if they would be amenable to that. But what's everybody's thoughts on a couple of breweries or maybe a winery? I know 12 Spies was a sponsor, I think probably in 2017. What's everybody's thoughts on that?
I think whoever you bring in for vendors to sell any kind of alcohol, it should be not charged. So if it's a brewery, they're letting people taste their product. It shouldn't be a situation where they're selling.
So it's a tasting
Yes,
and there's no charge.
yes. Then that changes, I'm sure it changes the licensing and the permitting and all that. And I think whatever alcohol sales that we have should be us.
The club.
And we already have a license for that.
You'll have to jog my memory. I know we had a beer fest or Oktoberfest a few years back, and we had maybe 6 or 8 craft breweries. And I'm trying to think, did they sell beer or did they just sell koozies and odds and ends? Do you remember?
Well,
What-
what I
it was-
remember is the owners could not serve the beer. We had to have volunteers to serve the beer.
Right, right.
I don't think we charged for it.
But Chris, your thought is if we're going to have alcohol there, it's just a tasting and no
I
charge.
think we should do breweries. I don't think we should do any alcohol. I think we should just do beer and wine and make the owners of the brewery or whatever winery, let them cover their own end and let them serve to promote their product, not make it a selling thing.
Okay.
Because, you know, if we want to sell something, we need to sell it ourselves and we get that revenue.
Okay.
We have a license where it can be consumed anywhere on the golf course. And we can set up some remote bars, but I don't think we should allow anybody to sell any alcohol on this property. That's not us.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
I
Yes,
don't think we have any option.
Pam's here.
Work with the breweries to have their beer for us to sell.
They can hand out tastings and we can sell the product.
And maybe like Curry, they got shirts, hats, koozies. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
But typically they give that stuff away too. I mean, I think it should be a complete giveaway for whatever vendors we have that
Mhm.
come from breweries or wineries. They have all that stuff, and that's how they promote their business. So I don't think they need to charge for anything. They just need to give it out. And that needs to be a bonus for the people coming to the event.
Yeah, some of them may have some shirts, sell some shirts.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, and that's another thing.
Typically what they do is they send all that stuff to us and we can give it out. It's typically what they do. So whenever we have a company that wants to promote the product, they give us all kinds of things, you know, it's all kinds of swag.
Mhm.
They just ship it to us.
Okay. We've had 2 Fall Fest t-shirt designs that I recall in the past. One of them was a kind of a gray shirt, and the other one was a white that had some leaves and stuff on it. I mean, do we want to go with a brand new design, or we want to go with a one that we've had and just put a date on it? You know, Fall Fest 2022. Any ideas, and how do we go about maybe have a contest for the Fall Fest t-shirt?
Why don't you have one contest and have people submit designs and pick a winner, do something for them.
Yeah, I think that will get more community involvement. We've got some very talented artists in there, and if we give them parameters of something on the front, something on the back, and sizes, I think we'd get a lot of interest in a contest, but I won't be.
No. I can see Holly, maybe. Pam, are you artistic?
Not the least bit. Martin is.
Martin, yeah.
He said artistic, not autistic.
Oh, I misunderstood you. Did you hear that, Martin? I said you were artistic, and he said, I said artistic, not autistic. They're talking about you. He's upstairs.
But outside of that, you know, traffic control, make sure it doesn't get congested, and in case we need any kind of emergency vehicles, keep things open. We need porta potties.
Need
Dog
wristbands.
water bowl.
People that are 21 years old and up, we have to ban everybody.
Say that again?
We have to ban everybody so that we know who's 21, so we know who can drink and who can't.
It's a good idea.
A lot of events do that.
I can get the bans free from the beer companies, but we would need to have a booth set up with, you know, 2 or 3 people to ID and ban.
Okay, good.
If you're over 70, you still have to have a big.
No, I think, no, if you're clearly over 50, we're not gonna worry about that.
Anything else? Anybody have any comments?
What about shuttles? Did y'all talk about that already? Shuttles?
No, in traffic control, we've had, it seems to me, and looking through Linda's booklet, they had rented some carts that had, like, you could get maybe 8 people on a cart, the little larger ones. That being said, I think we had a lot of volunteers were shuttling people. The last one I was at.
It was scary.
It's not that far to walk. Why would you say?
Was it?
It's a block.
I think I'd see if Bennett could put a small couple of buses in and just bus people back and forth, but between those things breaking down and some of our drivers, their driving skills were questionable.
And I don't disagree, Ed, but if you've got 300 people, it's going to be tough. I don't know how many buses would you think? And bus you can't get in and out of places with a bus that you can with a like a cart.
Well, let's investigate the shuttles we can get. We can rent the shuttles.
Sure, there's a valet service around here that has it.
Well, Bennett's is the bus guy, but
I'll chime in about the shuttles. You're probably familiar with the barbecue festival that Dillard had for so many years. A number of local churches have buses, and they would volunteer that service and just have a donations bucket in the front. We might get somebody interested to do that.
Yeah, sounds like Tony was volunteering to check that out for us.
Okay. Yeah, I know the routine. I'll do it.
As long as we have the space, I think that's fine. Anybody else have any ideas on the bus versus shuttle? Or
Bruce, in that line, we haven't discussed the hay bale ride. That
the
was
hay bale
always a
trail?
big- Yeah, now I don't know liability wise, Holly, if that's the issue, but that was always a big hit, taking the kids around all the way down to the falls and back.
You mean the fire truck?
No, it was actually a wagon.
That's right. Yeah.
Did it to the tractor.
Hay
It
rides.
was
We've had the hay rides in the
basically hay
past. And another thing, yeah, we've had that in the past and it's been a big hit. Another thing I had not mentioned, in the past, Fall Fest ran in conjunction with the hay bale trail. Now, I'm not sure how much space that would compromise versus vendors, but I believe it's our intent, everybody, tell me if I'm wrong, that the Fall Fest and the hay bale trail will be run together. Is that correct?
I think so.
So there's going to be a lot of activity.
And Bruce, when we did the craft shows in the past, back by the not pickleball, but croquet court, you can monitor, like Chris was saying, if you're going to ban people, they're going to come through that one way. And it's a lot easier to monitor the control of the, walking and everything else. Up by the pickleball court, you've got public road.
Yeah. But I guess in the next couple of weeks, I'd like to hammer down how much space we have and decide, okay, we can have this many kids events in this space, this many vendors in this space, and make a determination and start going after these vendors.
Vendors are booking already.
Yeah, October is a busy time. I've received invites already for October.
Yeah,
Have you received them for October 15th?
I'm sorry?
Have you received them for October 15th
No,
specifically?
no, it's later in the month, but they're gonna start coming. I mean, they will.
This on that park over there, with the kids over there.
and Jim, let's get together and start writing down of people we know, because I had a lady reach out to me yesterday
Oh, really? Good.
that she says it's been the Fall Fest in Sky Valley's been her favorite. She does Christmas crafts, but just start compiling of vendors that we know, and I've got a list of 28 that I've contacted, that given business cards to, from Toccoa and from Clayton, and I'll start sending them emails, and so we can start getting commitments. But I'd like to see how many we can accommodate, and I don't know, have a cutoff point of, Linda said she remembers having like 30, 35 in the past. I think we could do more than that, don't you?
I think 50 is something we should shoot for.
Okay.
Will 50 fit in that circle?
Yeah, I think so. Because before we had it down one side and only partially the other side. We've got more room now too. So.
Bruce,
Did we
you're gonna need to hire a couple porta potties.
Yeah, I think Linda had 4 in the past. But yeah, and
Bruce-
trash
Bruce,
cans.
has the, excuse me, Bruce, has the committee come up with a proposed vendor fee? Because you will probably need to know that before you start reaching out to people.
Yeah, we decided 50.
Okay.
Is that correct, Ken?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Is there anything that I haven't mentioned that we need to
Bruce, you're gonna need.
consider?
You're gonna need somebody to design and buy some banners so we can advertise and market this.
Or some of those like real estate signs.
Yeah, we had Linda in her book, call them feather flags. And she said 1 for crafts, 2 entrances, food, tickets, shuttles, a total of, I think, 10 flags that she had done or 13 flags or something that she did in the past. So that's something we'll definitely have to design.
We haven't talked
And
about
again-
it.
Talking about more promotional stuff to promote the event versus location stuff.
Right. And as far as publicity, and maybe those flags, Ed, whoever wins the contest for the T-shirt, the flags will kind of be the same. But as far as publicity, of course, T-shirts and bumper stickers, Clayton Tribune, Facebook, Chamber of Commerce, our website, Laurel Monthly Magazine, radio, etc. I think that would cover it a lot. A Forward Raven.
Bruce, Jamie Dara is our new representative on the marketing board for Forward Raven. So if we could get that information to her, she will be glad to get it out to Forward Raven, and they would promote this for us for nothing.
And I guess it'd be nice to have some kind of a design for the next Fall Fest so that we could submit that to, post it on Facebook. It's not mandatory, but maybe we get working on that. How Holly, how best do we reach out to our artsy folks to get that in play, to design a t-shirt?
I think a flatbed truck with a microphone riding around the city might be good. Um,
Pam, what do you think?
I have no idea what she's talking about. How about the wagon with the horses?
yeah. We can have the city send out a blast about it. Bruce, if you'll write it up, we can have our city distribution list through MailChimp send it out.
Maybe do the
Yeah, I
same.
mean, once you get the details, post it on Sky Valley Neighborhood Facebook page.
Yeah, that'd be great.
One thing before we conclude, we've kind of shifted here. We had, in our initial meetings, we had really decided, I think, that the CBC would be kind of a better place for the vendors. And I appreciate the club closing the croquet courts and offering their space, especially for that petting zoo. I assume Roy's going to handle the cleanup on them. I would
We
urge
get to use the meat afterwards, right?
always thinking about food, Roy. Always thinking about anyway, I urge us to keep an open mind that maybe that might not be the best location. You know, I know we're trying to grow this thing. The last one was dismal, obviously. And I would like to not limit it to that space and look at other spaces, because I don't think we could have the children's, you know, events there. And I just don't think there's simply space. And so I'd encourage us to look at, you know, the city park and down by the pickleball courts and the CBC. But obviously, I'll go with the majority.
Jason, is there a layout of the city that shows the road coming in? It shows the area over by the pickleball courts. Because it'd be nice to have some kind of a map that lay out and say, okay, vendors, just for people coming in here, the vendors 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to go here, just to show the layout. And so everybody's on the same page as where everything's going to take place.
I'm sure we could create something. I've got, we have obviously our zoning map and some other tax map, property maps, but we could customize something if need to.
Okay.
What about using Google Earth? And then you could download a map that way and then mark out spaces.
And it would be to scale.
Yeah.
I like it.
Does that mean Karen has to do it, Bruce?
Oh, why not?
Okay. I guess action items now in the next couple of weeks, determine how many vendors we can accommodate. Have we pretty much decided no car show? Is that the consensus? What's everybody's thought?
Well, I mean, if we have it there at the club, that gives us space over by the CBC again, if we wanted to do that.
Okay, so we'll have to determine how many cars we can accommodate. That way, and say, okay, we can accommodate 20, 25 cars, and then that's it. But, you know, maybe next week we go out and start laying this out, walk in some of the areas and see how many spaces. Because I'm sure these car guys are real proud of their cars and they want enough space in between them. And just determine, okay, we have this much space for this amount of cars, and we have X amount of space for vendors, for the children's events, and then just start soliciting them.
I know this is a total guess, but I mean, I guess we're going to need to try to guess on how many parking spaces we're going to need for attendees.
Mm-hmm.
and vendors, I guess, because they're not going to be able to park at the club. They're going to be able to unload there. But I don't think we can have room to accommodate their vehicles, would we?
It needs to be further away where the vendor, I mean, where the guests can have parking. The vendors needs to be, you know, well away from the event.
Right.
Everyone
right.
I've ever been to is that way.
Okay. But I mean, we have to accommodate vendor parking and then attendee parking.
Exactly.
I don't, you know, based on my limited experience, that wasn't very many, but hopefully we can grow this thing into something that people will want to attend.
Okay, so the next action item is I'd like next week to see, to lay out what space we have and what we're going to put there and how many of them, and get some designs on some shirts so we can order some, what Linda calls feather flags or banners, and start getting sponsors. But next week, I'd like to get this layout nailed down.
Bruce, just a thought I had. If we do go with what Jim suggested, or I know it was Tony who suggested possible small church buses being our mobile vehicles, we could possibly think about using all the parking over at the old visitor center, and that could be one point where people could park and jump on a bus and come over to the city. I mean, just one of the areas we could use possibly.
I think that could possibly work, as far as parking, with a bus, to shuttle people around. As I recall, there were people walking everywhere. There were people walking on the roads. I'm not 100%, sold on the bus in Sky Valley. I just don't know if you're going to have, say you have a bus that's got 15 seats, or maybe a small van, that may work better than a bus.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Okay, that I think I can see, because I know in the ones I remember, there's a lot of people walking around, and I think that's why I thought maybe the golf carts or shuttles would be.
Well, we could have designated shuttle stops, and then maybe have golf carts pick up people at those. I don't know. We could work all that out, but I was just suggesting the old visitor center parking as a possible parking
Overflow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we had shuttle stations at the last event that I can remember, where people could, okay, you can catch a shuttle here at maybe 4 or 5 different spots.
Or could maybe the parking at the visitor center could be for the vendors.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. And we'd have a shuttle that once they set up, we'd take them, or they could drive their car over there and we could get them back over there after it was over.
Now, where'd you say, Holly, for the vendor parking?
Maybe the old visitor center.
And then shuttle them in.
Mm-hmm. Well, they would drive in to set up and then drive back to the visitor center, and then we would have to get them back
Shuttle
over.
them back.
So, yeah. Just a thought.
Well, very good. Any other questions, comments, ideas?
Well, I may have missed, Bruce, I may have missed this part, but are we having music?
That's a good question. Linda said music in the past had not been a big draw. Now, it maybe just piped in music somewhere, but I kind of, we kind of shied away that just by based on what Linda said, that it was never a big draw.
Okay.
Bruce, we had several radio stations that would come and set up and broadcast from the Fall Fest, and they would talk about the Fall Fest and play music, and they have their own tents. I don't know if you want to think about that.
That's a good one.
So you say radio stations?
Yeah,
They do it live remote. They come out and they
Yeah.
broadcast and then they promote it.
yeah.
But you can only do one station. You can't do multiple stations.
Yeah.
I think we only have one station.
Okay.
Good, Pam, thanks.
Maybe we'll start our own Sky Valley radio station, Pam.
Yeah, with you as the comic relief.
Mhm.
Put that on my salary, would you?
Okay.
Hey, Bruce, I think the priority at this point is deciding where you're gonna set the booths up.
Mhm.
Everything else is going to play off of that.
Yeah, I agree. And what I'd like to do next week is, measure the parking lot at CBC. And Jim, how much space would you say per booth? What are they, 10 by 10s?
Yeah, I would allow your 10 feet and then 2 feet on each side.
Okay.
You mean 10 feet in the front? It depends on which way you put the table, doesn't it?
Well,
Jim?
12 feet wide.
Your tents are 10 by 10. And then
That's
you need
true.
2 feet on each side just for clearance.
Okay. That's a good suggestion. Maybe
So maybe 12
Bruce,
by
you could do
14.
two different mappings of how you want to set this up, and then let the committee decide which one they like the best as to where the vendors go and so forth.
Okay. Very good.
Bruce, what about the food vendors? Do you want the club to try to do anything with food, or are you gonna try to find?
So yeah, anything that we can, keep in house, I like.
We have the smoker. Why not just a whole pile of, we could sell barbecue plates.
What, how much could the club, Chris, say we have 200-300 people? Holly, do you remember how many we've had in the past at Fall Fest? I know we had 400 or 500 for 4th of July.
Yeah, we probably had more than that. Yeah, it's been a big number, but I don't know the exact number, Bruce, but it's been a lot of people.
But
Well,
300, Chris,
Here's my
could,
thoughts on beverage. So we open up the corner, open up the doors, and we serve out of here. We open up the doors to the restaurant, and we serve out of there, and then maybe we do something remote over the pavilion. Each bar can easily serve 100 to 150 people. Because
Okay.
they're not all coming at once. So we can have 3 stations where we're serving product.
I don't think we want to open the club for that.
We just have them be able to walk into the bar, or they can set up the bar up the door. We don't have them come inside.
Yeah.
We just make that up.
That's,
Yeah. They could always come through the lakeside room.
I think in the past we set up a tent right into the sidewalk there, and we serve food.
very good. Anything else? Anything
A
we've
good-
missed?
A good place for that setup with the drinks and things for the flow would be the area in the back where the sidewalk comes out onto the driveway headed back to the pavilion. There's a big grassy area right to the left of the patio.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, Pam.
Put a bar right there so they can walk right up there.
Right.
Not letting them come in the restaurant.
Yeah.
But we can open
Bruce,
it.
when you come out of the patio, when you come out of the club room onto the patio, not
Yes.
the club room, but the
Mhm.
dining room, to the left, when you're walking up the sidewalk,
Yes.
like if you were gonna walk over to play croquet,
Yes.
that's a big grassy area that could be and it's close to the barbecue. Set a bar up there. We could even have a few tables over there.
Okay.
Tear up the grass, but just an idea.
No, that's good.
That sounds good.
Well, very good. That's all I have for right now. Like I say, next week, I'd like to lay out how much space we have and where we're going to put everything, and then maybe start getting a design for the shirts that we can give Ford Raven and Clayton Tribune to go ahead and promote this.
I don't think we need the design to begin promotion.
Start promotion. Okay.
I think we just need to get the date and, you know, contact information for vendors and stuff. I think we can push the design back some more towards this summer, so we have more people, more involvement, and then we can, you know, we could add that to the site, to the publicity at a later date.
Good. That's fine with me. What else was I going to say? Typically, what time does this start? What time does it end? What are the
Usually
times we've had in the past?
10 to 4 or 10 to 5.
Now, what time do the vendors get? When can they come in? Start coming in?
They should be there at 8 and clear the parking lot before 10.
So vendors start coming in at 8, and the event Fall Fest is 10 to 5.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, a lot of events allow you to do it the night before. Now, some people
True.
feel like they don't want to leave stuff overnight, but you know, there again, they can have their tents up.
And we used to do that at Fall Fest too, Jim, where the vendors could come in the night before and put up their awnings and their tents and tables and so forth. We did. But that's up to the, if we do it at the club, that would be up to the club give us permission to do that.
Very good. Anything else?
Bruce, I do have one more thing. I think, and Ken hit on this just a minute ago, getting the information out to the vendors, but we need to decide if we're going to be a juried show, meaning we've got specifics that we expect. I mean, we don't want resale stuff. We don't want handmade stuff wouldn't be right either, but you don't want junk out there. You want it to be a nice event where people will remember that. If they go out there and it's all
junk,
you know, towels and stuff like that, that they don't want to come back.
What, how do you limit that, Jim? I mean, I agree with you, but I mean, there were 80, almost 90 vendors at Toccoa, the last one I went to.
They've done so long there, Ken. They have a form that they send out. You request and they send it out to you. And I thought theirs went a little far. They wanted pictures of what you're going to sell. They even had a thing. They wanted a picture of you making your material. And I asked the lady, how can I take a picture of me taking a picture? But anyway, that was pretty much, but I think we need to, the best we can.
Pornographic to me.
Yeah. But the best we can, keep it to where it's a little more quality show.
Well,
Jim,
I totally agree with you. I just don't know how we accomplish that.
I've got a couple.
Head that up. He needs to be the guy that approves it.
Yeah, Jim, let's get together, and if you can get me a form, I'll send this out. And shoot, if anybody knows of any vendors that you've used in the past, and like I say, I've got a list of about 28, maybe 30 that I handed cards to. If any of y'all know of any vendors that have good arts and crafts, let me know. I'll get with Jim. We'll get a form, and I'll build a list, an email list, because I have all their emails, and send the form out to them.
So Jim, you pretty much are saying to limit it to where people cannot have garage sale tape items and flea market type tables is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I would think that would be on the form that, you know, we don't want anybody with that garage sale or flea market items to sell.
Now, 100% compliance, you probably can't do it, but if they do give you a picture of what they're going to sell, that does limit it a lot. So that helps.
This lady that I spoke with yesterday, I asked her to send me some pictures of her stuff, and she has.
Good.
But yeah, let's get a form, and I'll start soliciting. And then I'll start a list or send a list out of sponsors that we've had in the past. And, we can just send it around the horn and add or delete some of them, and we can go ahead and start getting sponsors.
Bruce, I would also contact Cheryl Beckert, or I guess it's Joy Aiken now, because they do an annual arts and crafts festival, and they had a lot of vendors last year, so they might be able to get the word out also.
Yeah, I've talked to Joyce, and she's thumbs up.
Okay, great.
We good?
How
We
about
good.
somebody did the artwork on the children?
Face paint.
Face painting. Yeah, that's one of the things we have.
The kids like painting little small pumpkins too, several
Yeah.
years. That was a big draw too. And then they got to take their pumpkin home. They like that also.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. Instead of the duck race, have the kids do a pumpkin,
Right, right,
and then put that in the race.
right. No, Bruce.
No, not the ones that sink, Holly. Not big pumpkins, but little plastic pumpkins. Just a thought.
Steve would love a creek full of pumpkins.
Wouldn't that be a great picture?
Yeah.
100 kids standing around watching big pumpkins just sitting in the lake or in the stream.
Sinking. Yeah.
Float your pumpkin.
But anyhow, I appreciate everybody's time, and we'll start this thing off next week, and get everybody's feedback when we want to kind of join again and start getting a direction on this and making it happen.
We'll also have to have somebody in charge of volunteers, because we will need a bucket of them. That is for sure. Yeah, maybe Autistic Martin can do that.
Now.
Hey, he was a winner of the Hay Bale Trail Design Contest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we kind of had one of those, Ken, where we had a first, second, and third. We had a committee that chose first, second, and third of our hay bales, and we can do that again. Or maybe have the people who attend the Fall Fest, they can put in their input on that also.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, the Hay Bale Trail with this event. I think depending on how many people we have attend, I think that we might want to give consideration to where we place the hay bales so that
Sure.
they won't be blocked by traffic, by parked cars.
Right, exactly. And I hope to increase the number of entries in hay bale this year. I think we will. So yeah, that'll be part of the whole plan too, Bruce.
Yep.
I'll be glad to work with you on that also.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet we will have a considerably larger number of hay bales next year.
Yeah, we will. Because I had people calling me way after the hay bale trail was already started wanting to get in on it. So it's going to be bigger this year. And that's wonderful. And I appreciate everything that you all are doing. And y'all are wonderful people, and your check's in the mail.
Perfect.
Y'all stay warm up there.
We will.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
All right,
Thank you.
bye.